Man, my video cut out. I pressed something. But we gon', I don't know. I ain't gonna edit it, but this is just gonna be a part 2. I'll put this right here. Damn, I got y'all position with. It's like y'all coming along my journey and experience. Yeah. Woo. Whoa. Woo. I had to remind myself I be getting jitters, boy. Cause y'all don't realize I'm a couple hundred feet up. I'm up, literally up here with the bizzers. I'm gonna show you how big this drop is. Whew. Yeah, I used to have a fear of heights. I did. I ain't gonna front to you. I did. But yeah. Whew. Sometimes I gotta remind myself to breathe. Because we can psych ourselves out. But yeah, I can see somebody pool. I don't know if y'all can see that. Somebody pool right there in the back of that. But yeah, check that out. I know the wind might be blowing. It's not too windy today. I would not be up here if it was that windy. But yeah, views are immaculate, man. And this literally is like a huge rock. And that's what I wanted to say earlier. Over there, I'll go up in a little bit. I actually years ago went to a powwow. If you don't know what a powwow is, it's indigenous, or some may call it Indian celebration, but I like to say indigenous. It was very interesting because it wasn't a lot of people that look like me, but the energy from the place and the experience. And then, oh no. The energy from the place. I don't mind me, I'm trying to grab this bag. Do not want it to go. I told myself I ain't gonna leave this trash up here. It almost flew away. It's crazy because somebody was up here drinking. I'm like, bro, up here? That's wild. But again, I was at the powwow. And it brings up memories from that because, again, I was at the powwow. And, you know, it was just interesting seeing the drummers, the people, the jury, and all that other stuff. And I just remember and recall, like, at a point in time, I know it wasn't like that. Like, everything wasn't centered around money and just greed, or it's almost like people trying to live and make a living. And I'm like, yo, instead of creating it. And that's what it has come to. You're talking about a lot of minerals and a lot of things come from the earth. And, you know, again, to each their own. People have their own, whatever it is from it. But yeah, it just, I had to see the experience because there was so many, those of you that know about, what are the blue stones? It was just so many things. But it was so, I'm gonna let y'all see the view as I talk about this. But it was just so, like, how much it wasn't celebrating the indigenous aspect. Like, people say Native Americans, but it wasn't celebrating the indigenous aspect of it, like the darker people. You know, it wasn't really something that was, I felt appreciated or even welcome there. You know, so in a lot of these areas, or what you see being exposed, dang, need to go the other way. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all get them views. It just exposing to me how people have proclaimed to be something. And I was like, well, what kind of roots do you really have? And why don't you acknowledge the ones that were darker, that came before you? Yeah, check that out. So yeah, I'm gonna jump down here. Don't try this at home, kids. Very windy up here. Y'all probably gonna hear it. Probably gonna hear it in the video. Just coming out here so y'all can get that view. But like I said, the powwow was literally right there. And it was an interesting experience. I did get to hold my daughter when she was smaller and dance inside of the circle with other people, which I felt like was definitely channeling some much needed things that needed to happen for myself, because at a point in time it was people that were darker that was doing that. And feel like it was a huge milestone just to be in the powwow and a part of it when they wanted people to dance and so forth. So that was a huge experience because I feel like I was breaking a narrative, a generational curse or a cycle of it just being a certain way. And I feel like I've talked about this before, but the reason why it's so touchy is because of how much people don't realize that has been kept away from people that are darker, and it's immediately to teach them like they're just black, but they don't really have a lot of knowledge of their tribal roots or even just ancestors. So that for me was very uncomfortable, but I was very confident to where I knew I had to be there, because you're talking about breaking race barriers, or racism, and then internalized racism that people don't feel like they have, but they do. So I'm gonna let y'all get this view again as I'm walking. Don't try this at home, people. Whew. I know some people gonna say, man, why are you so close to that rock? Mind your business, man. It is not my moment to go. And no, I don't feel like I'm going to do anything wild. This is just a moment I take it to myself, self-love moment. And then that memory just happened to come up. You know what I'm saying? Of being literally right there, a powwow years ago. And I wouldn't say that I would attend it again, because I know what it's centered around, and it's not centered around energy that's really authentic. It's not centered around, again, integrity and truth and love or unity. That was the biggest thing. It wasn't like when I came, it was like, oh, hey brother, or da 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 da. It wasn't at all. But the confidence to just step out, be yourself, know who you are, know thyself, know your roots. Because again, I was telling someone, the divine will have you in places as such to experience things, to live it through, to come through, to experience it, live it, honor it, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and just pass through. That's all life is. You're just passing through. And you're enjoying it. It'd be different. I'm sitting here, oh my God, nah. I realize I'm closing out a lot of stuff karmically, and the reason I say karmically, this is a perfect thing. I can sit it on the wind, probably won't blow so much. And when I'm saying I'm closing out stuff karmically, it has a lot to do with even the narratives, of, let me see, oh, that's perfect. The narratives of, internalized racism, hatred, it's closing out a lot of things karmically to where I can just move forward, because these are areas, again, that literally have what most people don't realize at a point in time. It's not asking you to forget, it's reminding you to never forget about where you come from, but the energy and the ancestors live through us. Like, that energy is, for a lot of us here, I realize my path is to face certain things, just to realize, like, even having a partner, that doesn't look like you, that has roots in, using the term Native American or, indigenous, because we all some type of indigenous. If you look at the world today, we all got something in us, especially if you're in so-called America. But, encouraging her to learn her roots, let her know, like, how some of her people came over here, and, encouraging people to break that cycle, or the spell has already been lifted for people to actually believe that people that look like me just came over on something. I'm like, what? It's not to say certain people haven't traveled or migrated. This has always been happening. A lot of our ancestors have migrated. So that whole twisted narrative to be used for people to feel like they're superior, and a race or other people that are darker to feel inferior to someone, like, that whole thing is done. Like, it's like in the past, and a lot of us came here to honor, not forget about what our ancestors did, but a lot of our ancestors, they did not want the best for everyone involved. Some of them did. Some of them just simply wanted to live amongst each other or live amongst people in harmony and peace. This is what a lot of us are choosing to do here. That's why it has been very uncomfortable learning about like the history or just learning about the roots of even Ohio, and even surrounding areas where some may use the term gentrification, some may use the term, so many things dealing with the fact of people coming in and this happening and not realizing like, yo, no matter where you are individually, you still are prospering. You're still able to accomplish said things. One of my biggest things I had to accept and learn is support. What is support? And does a place really support who I am, what I'm becoming? That's something that I had to learn when I start to venture out to different places. That's something I still had to realize, that it didn't matter where I was. I still had to create where I was. I still had to create content. I still had to be confident. I still had to love myself, the uncomfortable parts of myself, the versions of myself, whether anyone accepted it or not. It was no difference than being in a demographic that was darker. So being here, I've said how even that powwow or all these experiences that I've had here, I realized what I'm closing out karmically. Like, what am I supposed to see? What is the lesson? So that I can take, so I could, receive it, share it, and then literally, let people know, like, you also have been living in this closed off or took on a narrative. Even people who are lighter shades or different hues, y'all took it on a narrative, like, to find every reason to be divided amongst each other, to never unify. You literally created your own system, belief systems, whether that be any type of religious system. You literally created a whole narrative, and then when people come around from certain demographics, different belief systems, religiously, it don't matter what it is, people are so defensive and protective over their said belief system or belief systems of other generations, and they're willing to fight tooth and nail, even go to war over it. And that's what's been happening. That's what happens when I'm coming into areas where I can see elders who turn their nose up at me, who are lighter shade, and it's not all of them, but they turn their nose up. They're not open to support, certain people who are both, like, let's say if you are interracial or you are darker or whatever it is, people really reveal their hand, or, their character reveals itself. And this is why I have to have grace for myself. And then the energy doesn't lie, because then I realize, like, wow, they don't realize, like, karmically, that's going to come back full circle. The times are shifting, things are changing. So, a lot of these elders, again, I've said, they've held on to these narratives. You got to realize a old system that is literally been up under a curse of so much of, like, different curses of, like, division, self-hatred, idolizing, wounded ego, a wounded masculine society and generation who have masked their emotions so much, who mask their emotions and even their structural and internalized racism or basically hatred of self or other people, and literally built what you see here. Literally built cities from that same energy. I mean, because if it wasn't true, then you wouldn't have so much of, when you see the military, when you see the graveyards, when you see a lot of things. And again, when I look at towns like this, it's literally, again, just centered around, like, people don't ask themselves, and then people who have been living comfortably in this, they don't even ask themselves, like, and some of them knowingly know this, like, what have you built what have you built from authenticity or truth or love? You proclaim to be a Christian. You proclaim to love God. You proclaim to, like, for a lot of people, I've noticed this, a lot of women too, and men, y'all use a religion or characters and all the time put he, but never acknowledge the mother aspect or the matriarchal aspect. that literally, what do you think is sisterhood or womanhood or bring women together? And this is why so much of I see the narrative so much when it comes to um, how a lot of these structures that are dismantling now, that will literally only bring y'all together. That will bring y'all together when certain things happen, whether it's catastrophically, whether it's things that you never wish that could happen to you, whether it's financially, whether it's mentally, emotionally. And this shit is all in all cultures and creeds. Mentally, you have people who are struggling through substance abuse, go through things, human experience where they may lose a job. Something may happen to where it's literally a shift in awareness, consciousness, or divine intervention. It's like what I call it. And that's what I know I'm experiencing. It's like divine intervention. So I'm not mad at all from what I'm experiencing or going through. I always remember that it's temporary. And this is why I be encouraged to create content. As this beautiful bird, I want to get y'all see, fly over my head. Trying to get him. Did I get him? That shadow was amazing. That's how high he is. He just gliding. But anywho, so I'm able to sit back. It's almost like through the lens of source, God, the creator, which we're all having this experience. It's like I'm sitting back and observing and just being able to like not take on what I need to as I used to anymore. Like in the season which we all go through certain things of letting go. And that's the difference between a lot of people. It's like things are gonna look different. The energy is gonna look different. If a tornado or something came through here right now, guess what? People that, depending on who they are in their mindset, they wouldn't know what to do. It was something unexpected. They wouldn't know what to do. And more so, it will force people to come together, no matter their color, creed, or demographics. And it will force people who have been in, which I feel like is really going to happen, they will force people who have this internalized hatred to even venture off and probably be replaced in a said whole nother demographic where they're all centered around people that are darker, where they have to be forced to show their colors or, their internal world, that internal world that is breeded off of hatred, woundedness, and so forth. So my thing is, we shouldn't ever get comfortable. And some people are so comfortable in what they're used to where they don't know how to be anything but what is internalized. And it ain't pretty. And there's no judgment, but that's even from my own experiences. I was like, I wasn't always at this place. And I'm still not perfect in what I'm doing. I'm still unlearning things. I'm still learning how to even try to navigate through the day without feeling like I have to project or feeling like I have to have it all together. Like, that's a lesson in that. Because when I sit back and I recognize the communities and I recognize the people and so forth, I have to ask myself, do I really want to be here? Do I need to be here? Or is there something that I realize, what is the lesson? What has been shown to me where I have to show up, not be in authenticity, but show up to where I can go where I am appreciated and celebrated. That's been one of the biggest things that can be one of the most challenging things to accept. To where, just as a man that is darker, as a man that just wants to feel a sense of belonging, no matter whether in his own community setting, his own demographics, by his own people that look like him. Like, mental health consists of that too. When you're literally, it's so many different aspects and levels, and you're just trying to find a place of peace. And this is why I come on my walks. This is why I go places where others don't go. And it's not to say this per se, but I'm talking about like do things that aren't typically or normalized by people that look like me, or by people who, what was I getting at? Risk taking, stepping out in faith, staying focused on your path. Like like you talking about consistently staying focused on my artistry, coming into things where, recently to where I'm like, okay, Where am I going to create this art? How am I going to do it? And so forth. But I just know everything's going to be okay. And I know that that's the security in knowing that I'm always taken care of. I think that's one of the biggest things of acceptance, of like being taken care of by a source or the universe. It's like when you do the inner work, shadow work, and face certain things, you start to look at the negative as a positive and the positive as a negative. I don't mean bad and good. It's more so like, if this happens, okay, it's leading me to something else. Can I have integrity? Can I have authenticity? Can I love myself through it? Can I even see the parts of me that I don't want to love? Can I see the parts of me that I'm afraid to love? That process of coming out of a relationship where it can seem very treacherous and emotional, draining and so forth, or even, basically that it's taking a toll, and then you start to feel things get lighter. But then there's a rebirth process through that where you can feel like a newborn. When you're coming out and into something, again, I've said this before, one of my biggest things has been the trust with women has a lot to do with reflecting the wounded femininity of the mother wound that most men don't acknowledge. And so with that, I told myself, I'm like, hey, you know what, still, doing that shadow work reminded me of facing those internal wounds. I realized like I'm also facing that, but I also have to be open and embracing the newness of said, women that come into my life that want to be supportive. But through that, I'm able to recognize like how I learned how to set healthy boundaries, the discipline, and even not having to look at women through a sexual lens. It's not to say you don't see them in a sensual way, but it's how more I've gotten intimate with myself and in a more, connected with myself more intimately. I have the self-control and discipline in it, like, you know what? Not only is this someone's daughter, this is a woman. She had, seeing the inner child, seeing the beauty outside of what's presented on the surface, and having discernment. That's most importantly, having discernment to realize like, oh, okay, what are their intentions? That is still a process what most people don't realize. After you're getting to learn yourself and never stop getting to learn yourself on an intimate level, you will realize how much one has self-sabotaged himself, or overgiving, or doing just anything to where it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. So, and sometimes doubt, I will say that doubt and questioning myself can't come up because I'm sitting here like, yo, how do I know this person ain't gonna do this? How do I know? But am I basing this off of what I've experienced already? And I had a beautiful shout out to Steph. You know who you are. Shout out to Stephanie for a message she sent me about like we're still moving forward. I think that's what most people get so tripped up with. Like, even though I'm having a memory here, I'm still moving forward. I'm like, my life, age is still going to happen. Life is still going to happen. That's the process of still moving forward. Is if we choose to stay or, drown in that memory and not realize that we're moving forward. That's the awareness. But she reminded me like, we're moving forward. This is still happening. And what did she say? You're not able to want something and get it at the same time. It's something like that, to where basically you can't have one foot in the past and then wanting to move forward. I'm like, yo, sheesh. And I feel like that's where a lot of us are at individually or collectively. It's like a crossroad to where we can sometimes be so, our spirit can be troubling, and it don't always have to be painful. I remind people of this. It don't always got to be painful. It don't always got to be, when you leave, it got to be crazy and all like that. That was something I saw a lot of. But now I'm realizing the awareness of like, you can depart in peace. You can walk away in peace. You can walk away with your integrity. Even if you don't have nothing to your name, you got yourself. And that's okay. And I told myself, I'm like, yo, when she mentioned that, I didn't want to accept it, but I was like, there's wisdom in that. Because, my ego wanted to be like, yeah, whatever, da, 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 da. But truthfully, there's wisdom in the fact of, can I be able to see that am I in battle with myself? Am I not wanting to let go of an old version of me, knowing that this new version of me has its hand out already, awaiting my first step? And that unfamiliarity is scary to a lot of us because we're so used to what's familiar. And that's what I see when I look at communities. That's why I see when I look at society and so forth. It's, again, that insanity. Expecting the same result, doing the same thing and expecting the same result. That comes with the school systems, that comes with environments, that comes with, so many things on so many levels. But again, it's the beauty in knowing that it's okay to be scared. I had to tell her, I was like, man, I'm be honest, I'm vulnerable, in a vulnerable place, but I'm scared to trust women. And it's nothing to do with her, it just has a lot to do with what I experienced. But I have to remind myself that's a part of, learning now to hold space for myself in a more feminine aspect of being secure, listening to myself and my intuition. So honoring that allows me to just learning where I need to face and heal or acknowledge more, so I'm able to move forward and to build more healthy connections with myself and other people. So that's one thing I've also acknowledged is how important it is, to where we don't think that on the other side, or not just the other side, that there is an upside to everything. And that's one thing I had to be grateful for, because as soon as I realized I'm it seems like in between worlds, or letting go of something, it sometimes can feel like that old version of you or certain things wants to cling, wants to hold on, wants to show now, you ever had people or certain things like, oh, I want to be everything now, I want to do all these things now, when within yourself, that's that old version of you wanting you to believe that, oh yeah, this can happen, this can work. But in reality, for me, it's showing me the outdated energy, or what no longer serves me, basically, or what is playing out, to where it's like, well, when I needed it then, where was it? But the beauty of that is, I know I needed me more. So now that I'm seeing a reflection or a person that's mirroring that back, I'm like, you're mirroring back basically not only what I've been saying, whether it's family, friends, or whatever, but you're also mirroring back things that I've already accepted internally. So I don't need to fight this, but typically that energy will show itself through people, that spirit or whatever it is, right before you already know your closure, or it's almost like a closing act of like a show. And so it's a lot of those things be reminders of knowing that you will see a glimpse, because I've been noticing this with my life, you will see a glimpse of what your life is already going to look like on a different or higher timeline, as some would say spiritually, or you will see your new life already playing out for you. And I'm saying yo. And again, most people won't know the awareness of this because they're so used to they're so used to being conformed or familiar to what is around them, what is in their face all the time, and don't realize their new life still be showing them. They're just not willing to go through the uncomfortability, or what some say, the Most High strip you of everything, or you lose it all only to get it back. So it's just like a baby growing up. The baby don't stay the same size. The baby has to grow up. The baby has to learn to walk, crawl, walk, do all those things. It has to literally go through the process of shedding layers, letting things go just to rise. And it's no different in life, spiritually speaking, metaphorically speaking, and anything else. You know what I'm saying? So I could use that experience from what I went through at the powwow to use it as gratitude to expand, but I choose to alchemize it and share it here. I could create something completely different. That's on me. So again, that's just my little message for today. Did my due diligence. I'm gonna enjoy this warmer weather and this sun a little bit. And take care of yourself, love on yourself, do something you never did before. When the last time you did something for the first time? But other than that, man, cherish everything you have, cherish the ones in your life. No matter what you're going through right now, cherish them. One of my toughest things I've been going through is that shout out to Hood Hiller. I think she had posted something like that. It's something similar to like, even when you know you've been wronged, you know, true character is like, even when you know you've been wronged and you still do right by people. That's been one of my biggest things with having the heart or the love that I have, or just walking in integrity. Is I know, you can know what people have done. You can feel like they should have supported you. You can feel like they could have done so many things. And sometimes it's not even if they wronged you. It's just like you recognizing the awareness of like, you're still here. You're still able to have your health. You're still able to breathe. You're still able to enjoy life and make the best out of it. And, you know, again, through process of transition, no matter how it looks, balance out grieving and joy, because that's what I had to do. There's moments where emotions come up and I'm like, why am I going through this? And I grieve and I cry, but I feel lighter. Then I end up laughing, joy, looking into the eyes of my kids and be like, wow, you know what? I know what I'm doing is facing and feeling certain things that my mother and father didn't do. Repressed and suppressed emotions. So I know that it's an honor to be a bridge for myself to others, whether it's uncomfortable, whether it's showing you how you need to face who you are, to have compassion, to have grace. Again, even when people wronged you, you don't do what they did. And, you know, that's very tough for me. I carry certain like Scorpio energy where I can feel like I want to be vindictive. But I've learned through this process, not only silence is golden, and I'm not saying purposely doing things to get a rise out of people. I mean just literally going through life as if, you know, as if you're not supposed to enjoy it. And so even when you find joy in it, even when other people's internalized world, even if they have everything and they're still not happy, like be happy on purpose. Like love life on purpose, the best way you know how. Because, you know, it don't matter where you are, always find a reason to be grateful. You know, that's why I was walking and I was like, I'm grateful to be in this place where I'm able to share, speak my truth, and then continue with life. So, yeah. Y'all take care of yourself. I appreciate you. Peace and blessings. Shalom.